Most people who have had the privilege to attend a fine Jesuit high school have had the opportunity to read and enjoy the Arthur Miller classic, Death of a Salesman. And according to Congressman Don Meyer, a graduate of Gonzaga High School, so close to the Capitol that you can even see the dome on the rotunda, and also a luxury automobile sales group mogul, politics is just like sales. He says you have to meet strangers, make them feel comfortable to make a deal and close a sale, and at least according to Don Meyer, 95% of folks who have already bought a car at his dealership will automatically just buy again. So he says he and the salesman at the dealership often joke about the fact that they spend most of their money just trying to sell the other 5%. So if politics is like sales, and most people agree that the pandemic pathogen and even donning masks has become political, it might be a good idea to understand the science of a sale, because it is a science based all on psychology. And every salesman worth his fine luxury car, designer suits, and expensive townhouse knows the coffeeest for closer steps for a sale under the acronym AIDA. Attention, interest, decision, action. Do I have your attention? I know that you are interested. Have you made your decision for Christ? Action. Sign your name on the line that is dotted. First prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. And you want to know what second prize is? A set of steak knives. And that is a joke that maybe only a real salesman gets, because sales is a very competitive industry. Sell or walk. If you can't make the sale, you need to find another profession. In the movie Broadcast News, the character played by the delightful Albert Brooks describes the William Hurt character to Holly Hunter as the devil, because of his belief that essentially we're all just salesmen, engaged like the diminutive mouse into which the satanic figure in Goethe's Faust transformed from a cavalier gentleman to nibble away at the corners of the pentagram placed at the door to protect the house of the kindly doctor and its inhabitants. And an intriguing image, especially for a son of a preacher man, or a profession described seemingly cynically as peddling illicit quantities of God by perhaps one of the best actors I ever saw in a high school dramatic production in Jesuit High School, who almost ironically went on in later life, like at least a few others, to become a priest himself. And perhaps the rigorous instruction at some of the finer private and parochial schools tends to inspire a certain curiosity and imagination that may have noticed in the study of biology that the very discovery of cells, at least a synonym, or sounds a lot like word for the actions of a salesman, was that cleric's observation that the remains he found in a simple piece of cork resembled most the living quarters or cells in which many of the priests had resided, like tiny apartments, staying at home, providing that basic subsistence need in Maslow's hierarchy of basic sheltering in. And this rather circuitous progression in human consciousness, indeed as a method to explain the seeming madness in order to introduce what marketing geniuses did not discover until the latter part of the last century, regarding a scientific method to facilitate sales transactions for intangible, can't-touch-it products, as some may describe theological designs to offer salvation. But in the secular world, usually includes products such as health insurance and life insurance, or what is described in the professional training manuals as needs-based selling. Needs-based selling. Any businessman or salesman worth his investment certainly knows that the best way to sell something to a potential customer is to sell to the pain point. Where does it hurt? Donde le duele? Or something that is urgently needed, as opposed to attempting to induce someone essentially to place a wager on some speculative outcome, which usually imputes a high-risk premium. Or you have to pay extra for it. So, to facilitate this transaction, the magic of needs-based selling is to take that vague and ambiguous outcome and to transform it into a present necessity, something that you can understand, for which the customer must act now, and act decisively, and act without delay. Please don't wait. Time is running out. Just imagine a child in a grocery store easily distracted and easily tempted to grab every object from impulse, filling the shopping cart with every item he believes that he requires right now. And for most parents, acting under the imposed restraint of a limited household budget, transforming in its own ways, will probably, with great swiftness, apply what we might call a market correction. Put that back. And as noted by the Data Institute at the University of San Francisco, home of Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris, and the primary research upon which the nation's only physician serving as a state governor, Ralph Northam, had relied for his facial coverings mandate, historically, epidemics are a time of fear, confusion, and helplessness. And according to the Pew Research Center, back in March, in fact, it was not only a time of need creation for many, but even a time in which as many as 24% of persons who had never thought about attending a church service online or in person actually decided to consider the possibilities of prayer. But at least according to the science reports about this novel coronavirus, for which apparently there is now actually, at least since June, a new and improved version, even quality tested to be safe, causing no more potential harms or risks of fatality, but only more efficient and effective at the job of increasing infections. Just like the doctor ordered, or some say predicted, that novel coronavirus actually is not infectious or communicable between person to person at all. Well, that sounds odd. Well, actually, 239 scientists, including Virginia Tech's Lindsay C. Marr, made a lot of headlines back in June about demanding a modification of the transmission model because she believed, with others, in plain folks talk, that COVID-19 was in the air. In the air. Or being transmitted as an aerosol spray. In his country doc manner, Ralph Northam tried to explain aerosols around Labor Day to folks by saying that meant that COVID-19 was being spread by tiny particles, which most folks probably already understood droplets and coronaviruses to be, at least by that time. But what he apparently did not understand was how the size, less than 5 microns, or at least 70 times smaller than a period at the end of a sentence in a book, changes what scientists refer to as, get ready for this word, computational fluid dynamics, enabling that tiny particle to remain suspended for up to 2 hours in the air. In theory, consider this. An infected person could actually leave that infected particle in that tiny elevator that you demanded you wanted to ride by yourself. And now you're stuck inside with that particle that you left behind. And that is actually much scarier for a non-scientist than a particle that National Geographic found back in April that could actually travel as far as 26 feet. Because no social distance in the world could possibly protect you from a coronavirus particle that could remain in the air after the infected person had left. Elvis has left the building. And even though the press made jokes, the president actually said just that. How in the world could anyone protect themselves from a disease that could actually contaminate the air? Colorless and odorless and invisible. And silent killer. Think about it. Well, probably no real scientist was super terrified because they know, even if you know, that one particle, especially of the novel coronavirus, is not sufficient to deliver what they call an infectious dose. What the infectious dose is for COVID-19, nobody has yet figured out yet. 1 year into a pandemic, figure that one out. But if a potential to be infected by COVID-19 was possible by a particle that could remain suspended in the air for up to 2 hours, You would think somebody smart would have begun to look into that possibility, figure that out, rather than becoming concerned about close social gatherings that might set off super spreader events. Super spreader events that can't happen unless you have a highly infectious particle. And you can't have a highly infectious particle unless you know what is the infectious dose. Because apparently this novel coronavirus could be able to infect people even after everyone was gone. And you'd have to discover exactly how to fight against what looked like an empty room. So tell me, what do I have to do to get you in this car today? Is a phrase you often may hear at a high-pressure sales car dealership. And a seasoned salesman can deliver that line with the practiced sincerity and compassion of an Academy Award-winning actor. He may even bring you to tears. And it's all based upon the scientific psychology of manipulation, as he has to ask you what he has to do to get you in the car to ease his own guilty conscience of receiving up to 30% of the profits from the sale, and transfer the title of guilt or shame for a bad decision to you and your presumptively informed and reasonable choice. So you can wake up surprised. Do you really believe that he only wants you to be happy? Then hop on down to the dealership today and meet a new friend. And my name is Major Mike Webb. And by God, I am running for governor of Virginia. I ask every Christian, every conservative, every Republican, every Virginian, and every American true to, like the motto of the infantry, follow me, and we shall overcome. Honest. And y'all come back now. Yeah. Hey, check out the big brains on breath. This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb. She should have died hereafter. There would have been time for such a word tomorrow. And tomorrow and tomorrow creeps on in this petty pace from day to day, the last syllable of recorded time. And our yesterdays of writing fools the way to dark and dusty death. Out, brief candle. Life is but a walking shadow. Player that struts and fretches out upon the stage and then is heard no more. Is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.